Hello guys, welcome back. And in this video we are going to see functions, or we call them methods as well. So before starting off, what are functions or methods? So basically any function or method is basically a set of code statements that gets executed whenever you call the name of that function. Okay, so let me just show you an example how that works. So before this was the previous code that we had written. So let me just go ahead and delete everything, and I will delete this variables as well. So let me just make it a bit tidy. All right. So now let us just type in pass over here. So this is our ready function that we have already seen in the previous past videos, wherever this function runs only once. So let's say I want to create another function. So as I told you in the definition, that a function is nothing but a basically you can say a container where there are some set of code lines that gets executed whenever we call them. So how to create a function? So it's very easy. Just type in func. So func is the keyword, func is the keyword to create new function. And just like variables, we have to define the name of the function. So in this case, let's say print message. So print message is just the name of my function. So now we do have to open and close the brackets, and after that a colon symbol. So what that does is basically this particular line is telling that func means the compiler will now think that okay, we are going to define a new function. Then print message, the compiler will take this as the name of the function print message, and this opening and closing brackets is basically the parameters. So we will discuss later what are parameters and how to send them, but as of now we don't want any parameters, so it's just empty. And after that, the colon symbol is there to define that okay, the function definition ends here. And after that we have to give a tab, and in this particular line of code we have to write whatever the functions that we want to get executed, the code that we want to get executed, sorry. So over here, let's say that we just want a hello world message, for example. So let's type in print, and let's say hello, I am getting called from a function. Okay, so just one message that I wrote over here. So what that means is whenever I will call this print message function, so automatically the code beneath this will get executed. So let us try that. So for now, for just for example, I will press Ctrl S to save it, and now I'll press play. So in the console tab, you will see there is nothing, because obviously I have defined this function over here, but I have not called it to get executed. So the function remains in my code, but it won't get executed since I have not called it anywhere. So how can I call it? So basically this ready function is there, which is a part of the lifecycle method of Godot Engine. So here I will just call it, and all you have to do is just write out the name, and then after that opening and closing brackets, same as this, and you are done. So after that, press Ctrl S and press play, and right away you can see hello, I am getting called from a function. So this message comes because what is happening is when the compiler is calling this function, if inside this function we are calling this particular function, and this the compiler is coming over here and executing whatever statement. Now obviously the function can have more than one line of statements. So let's say I want to print some message over here. So hello, this is the second message. Okay, press Ctrl S and hit on play. And now you can see right away we have two lines of message output in the console. So this basically states that we can have multiple lines of code statements obviously, and there is literally no limit. I can have even 1000 lines of code in my one single function. Although it is not advisable, it is whenever you are making a game especially, it is highly advisable that you break out all the parts of your complex parts of your code logic, and you split them across the function, so as it will be very easy to debug in later stages. So anyways, we are starting from scratch, so here we just have to focus on the basics first. So this print message is now printing a defined message. So let's say that here I want to print my name. For example, here let's say uh, hello, I am Shashwat and welcome to my channel. For example, I wrote this message. Let me just remove this message from over here. So if I press play, again you can see that my name is coming. But let's say that if we want this name to be dynamic, means whenever I'm calling this function from over here, I should get a control over this name, because right now this name is hard coded. So hard coded means that it is there in the code and we cannot change it. So if we want this one is as a dynamic, we want a dynamic control. So in this case, what I feel there is should be a requirement that I should get some additional parameters passed to this function, so that I can use that parameter in place of this name, and that should be called with a dynamic value. So how can we do that? So basically we can do that right over here. So as of now you can see this one is a blank empty bracket. So from here we can give a parameter name. So here let us just name it as let's say dev name. Okay. So what is essentially happening over here is I have defined a variable which will get some value, and that value we can use inside this function anywhere. So only inside this function, not anywhere else. So what here you can see we are getting some errors. So basically this is saying that this function is now expecting a parameter to be delivered. Okay, but I'm not giving it any parameter. So in this one, what I have to do over here is I have to pass a value. So let us give a value called let's say um, Shubham. Okay. So now right away you will see the error goes away, because here I'm passing a string, and whenever I will execute my code, so this string will be stored in this variable, and then this variable will be available inside this particular function, and I can use it anywhere inside this function only. So let's say that I want to replace this with that. So I will just put a colon like this, and I'll press play, and here you can see I will hold on, and I'll name, I'll enter basically this name. Let's press play and let's see what happens. And yes, hello, I am Shubham and welcome to my channel. So now my dynamic message is coming. So here if I, let's say if I add in Mosam over here, so if I press play, I get this name. If I, for example, let's say I enter Rick, so yes, I am getting this message. Now the good thing about the using a function is that you can call that function as many times as you want without repeating yourself. So for instance, let's say I want to print 5 developer name. Okay, so I have this print message over here. What I could have done is I could have gone ahead and uh, do this printing thing as many times as I want, but instead I'm using a function which is basically allowing me to call this function the n number of times that I want. So for example, if the first developer print message is Rick, I can simply copy it. I can call this again with a different name. So here I can say Mosam. Okay, Here I can just say, oh, I am very bad at namings. Sorry for that. So let's say, okay, something like that. And if I press play, so right away you can see that I am getting the different numbers, I mean the different names in my console panel. So this is saving me a lot of effort, because here you can see there is only one line of code, but imagine if there are 100 lines of code for doing some particular task. So creating a function will really save me a lot of time and will prevent me from repeating myself. So there is a commotion called dry, do not repeat yourself. So whenever you are making a game, you have to be very specific about what you want, and how you have to be, you have to plan it. So how well you want to structurize your code, so that there is no need for you to repeat yourself again and again in various places. So all of those things comes later into the stage when you try to make some complex games, and over the time you learn things. But yes, initially if we think, we plan, and then we move on with the learning, so obviously it will become very easy for us to do the things. So all right, so this was the example for a string. So let us take an example of numbers. So let me just remove these things, and let me just remove this code also. I will like make a pass keyword over here just to avoid any errors. So now I'll go ahead and I will create two variables called number and num underscore one, and let's say num underscore two. Okay, now I will define this type of int, and I will initialize it here itself, 15. And let's define this also, and let's say, okay, let's make it 15 as well. So now we have two variables, num underscore one and num underscore two, which is a type of int, and its value is 15 each. Okay. Now we have two variables. Now let's say that we want a function that should, basically add the two numbers and print its sum. Okay. So how we can do it is basically func space, and then we have to define the function name. So we can give it any name. So let me just name it sum of two numbers. Okay. And in the parameter, we want two numbers to be given. So let's say we give num1, num2. So these are the variable name that we defined. Okay, and then colon to finish our definition statement, and then we can now start to write the body of the function. So here first I want to add the both the numbers. So what I can do is I'll create a new variable here where sum is equals to num1 and plus num2. And then in the next line, I'll write the sum of two numbers is, and remember that this is an integer, so we have to convert it to string. So str sum. Okay. So now if we try to run this one, nothing will happen, because obviously we have not called this function. We have just defined it. So in the ready function, we have to call it. So sum of two numbers, and here since we have defined two variables in the function itself, so here we have to pass the two values. So instead of passing the value directly, we can pass the variable as well. So num1 and num2. So now if I press play, so the sum of two numbers is 30. So now that you understand this, the how you can pass the data and how you can define the variable here. So let me just clear two concepts here. So first concept is can I access these variables outside this function or not? Okay, so see if you are getting any doubts or anything, you can put a comment. I'll try to explain that. Okay, so but bear with me, so I'll just make things more clearer now. So let me just try to print this particular variable, because as I mentioned that I am defining a variable name, right? So it is a variable and it can be accessed from somewhere. So let us see that if I try to print num1, so what will happen? So right away you can see that it is giving me an error. So if you see this error, it's saying identifier num1 is not declared in the current scope. So what that means? That means that whatever the variables that I am going to define as a parameter in any of the function, it will only be available in that function itself. So num1 and num2 that I have defined over here is only available within this function. So if I want to do something else also, I can clearly do it. So let's say that difference, I created a fourth variable, and here I will say num1 minus num2. So that is completely fine. Okay, so that won't give me any error because num1 and num2 is available within this function. But if I want to access this num1 and num2 outside this function, then it is a problem because it is not available uh, outside the function. So whenever you are dealing with functions, you have to think of that, and you have to write your code accordingly. So that was one thing. Now let us say that this num1 and num2 is, by name it is, I am able to understand that okay, this is a number. But in the code, the editor, I mean the compiler, won't know that it has to, it is expecting an integer, or it is expecting a string or bool or whatever. So what I can do is I can go over here, and let's say that I get some uh, let's say random value, and here I make a string. Okay, now instead of num underscore 1, I'll let me just go ahead and type out this random value variable, and the other one is num2, like as normal. So let me just hit play and let's see what happens. And right away you can see that I am getting an error, because what essentially is happening is this random value variable is holding a string value. Okay, and this num underscore 2, this is holding an integer value, and the function that I am calling is basically trying to add the two values of the variable. So but here, since I am in the first num1, I am passing the random value variable, which is a string. So this num1 becomes a string, and this num2 is an integer. So I am basically trying to add a string and an integer over here, which is causing this error. So in order to avoid this kind of situation, we have to force the editor that hey, this variable num1 and num2 is supposed to be of something particular data type I'm expecting, and I cannot give it any other value. Okay, so how we can do that is basically we can go ahead and insert a colon over here, and we define it the type, just like when we define it when we create a new variable. So likewise we can define it over here. And now let me just first of all get out of this play mode. So over now, now that we have this all setup done, let's hit play again. And now you can see that we get this error once again, because now that we have assigned this type, so it is not going to accept this value. So what we can do now is num underscore 1, and we hit play, and now it is coming correctly. So this was it, and in this video we saw how we can create a function, and how we can create a parameters and how to use them. In the next video, we will understand some basics about the Godot lifecycle methods. What are they and how they are used, and also we will see some uh, keywords like onReady for the variables. So see you in the next video.